All right, so I'm going to talk about the RAV4 today. There's always discussions whether or not there was one or two RAV4s, and I get a bunch of different interesting things told to me all the time by viewers and people that follow the case, and there's so many different conflicting facts that it's hard to keep up with all of them. But this video isn't going to cover every single thing that's ever been discovered or said about the Rav, because I mean, just the research alone would be a nightmare trying to uncover every single thing that's ever been said about it, various facts and whatnot. But what I am going to talk about is I want to talk about the things that I see with the Rav as it pertains to both arguments. Okay, so I want to point out things for reasons why I think there was only one. I want to point out certain things for reasons why there might have been two. And personally, I'm in the middle, really, of both arguments. I think I'd lean more towards there being one Rav, but still close to the middle. And that's what we're going to talk about today is just the different things that I see, arguments that can be made and stuff like that. So hopefully all of you are making out very well with this virus and staying safe, and hopefully none of you have it. If any of you do, or your family members, hopefully they fully recover and everything's good. So tomorrow night, I think 8:30, me and Thomas is going to be doing a video about a bunch of different things, and we will talk about a little bit about the virus, which I'm sure most of y'all are tired of hearing about, but it is important for a bunch of different reasons. So I think it is worth talking about a little bit. So here we go. Now, one of the main people that constantly get on my case about the Rav is Richard Boyd. Now, I know a lot of you know who he is, and maybe some of you don't. I'm not conflicted with him one way or the other. He hasn't personally, attacked me outside of a joking way. He does get a little carried away attacking others, but he is constantly on my case about this Rav situation. So some of this is going to be in response to some of the things he's constantly messaging me about and stuff like that. So here's the picture, and all of these pictures, by the way, none of them have been edited. They all come, to my knowledge, they all come from StephenAveryCase.org, every single one of them. So this picture we've all seen now. Right off the bat, I mean, if you look at the top of this photo, you can see that there's wrinkles in the photograph. So this is an actual hard copy photograph. This isn't a digital. I mean, my copy is digital, but what I'm saying is the picture depicted on StephenAveryCase.org is a picture of a picture. Because if you look hard, you zoom in, you can see the top of the picture has wrinkles and stuff where it's kind of been bent up and folded. So I can only take that as this is an actual photograph of Teresa standing by her RAV4. Okay. And I probably won't log every single thing that I say towards one argument or the other. You can kind of pick up on which piece of evidence that I'm talking about goes towards which argument. So judging by the wrinkles in this photograph, I can only take this as this is an original photo of Teresa Halbach standing by her vehicle. Now, interesting things to note in this picture are everybody's talked about the keys in her hands, how there's more than one key, and we all know that. And we all know that the key in Stephen Avery's trailer was planted. And Now, a lot of people bring up the color issue, okay? And look, I'll tell you what, just to get started, a lot of people believe that her car was supposed to be one tone. Every single thing on the car painted was supposed to be deep jewel green. Okay. The missing poster said that the Rav is green. Pam Stearns, when she found the vehicle, said that it looked blue, not green. The news channel said it was green and posted a picture of a one-tone deep jewel green Rav. Karen Hallbach said that the vehicle was green. Now, I don't know if they asked Karen Hallbach if it was two-tone or, if they just generally asked her, hey, what's the color of it? And she just said that it was green. Maybe, she thought it was green. To me, this color really goes either way, depending on the lighting. Now, I'm not going to sit here and argue that it's a significant difference between Mystic Teal Mica and Deep Jewel Green. That's a significant, a significant difference. But according to this photograph, this is Teresa Hallbach standing in front of a Rav. The picture is crinkled up at the top. I mean, but now one thing I found interesting, this same as that picture, what I did is I cropped out the back end of this vehicle because I want you to focus on the back end of this vehicle. If you look at this picture, how it is now, and you look at the front and kind of where Teresa Hallbach's standing, where the flash is hitting it, it has that blue look. But if you look towards the back of this vehicle and you take out all the other lighting, the lighting that's just on the back, now it doesn't look like the deep jewel green, but it does look green. Okay. So I think there needs to be some clarification. Maybe it's already been done. Maybe it hasn't, but there needs to be clarification on, well, did Karen Hallbach or friends of family remember if it was two-tone? That's something that you would remember if it was one-tone or two-tone. Even if you wasn't 100% spot on with the color, say it was actually Mystic Teal, but it looked green to them, that's understandable, but you would know if it was one or two-tone by, the amount of times that they've seen her in this car. So, for instance, I'm not looking, my wife has a Toyota Highlander. I'm not looking at it right now, but I could tell you that it's all one-tone pearl white. It's like a pearlescent type color. If you look at it from a distance, it looks white, but if you get right up on it, you can see the little sparkles and all that stuff in there. Now, in this picture, if you notice, right behind the rear tire, there's I guess you call it a running light or reflector. Now, in this photograph, that reflector looks red. Okay, clear as day, it looks red. I'm not disputing that. Now, here's a picture of Kathleen Zellner and the Rav that she purchased when she started the case, working on Stephen Avery's case. If you look at that same reflector, it looks red. The one in the front looks orange. The one that on Teresa Hallbach's vehicle was busted out when it was found. It clearly looks orange. The one in the back clearly looks red. Okay, there's no disputing that. I find that intriguing. Now, in this photograph, taken at where the Rav was found, that reflector looks orange. Now, I found other pictures to where that it's in the same situation. It's at night. The camera's kind of pointing towards it, and it kind of looks red, and then it kind of don't. It's really strange. But I guess you would log this on the argument of maybe two Ravs. But I really believe that it's. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't think it'd be too far-fetched to say that it could possibly be because the light is hitting directly on it. Because if you played around with reflectors and stuff like that, sometimes they can give different illusion, different colors under different lightings. But I think it's significant enough to bring up the fact that in this photograph, that reflector looks orange. It doesn't look red. It doesn't look white. It doesn't look anything except orange. It doesn't even resemble red. This one's red, clear as day. This one's red, clear as day. This one looks orange. Okay. So I thought that was interesting. Now, one thing I feel sort of confident of, an argument that was brought up was, and I think this one was brought up by Richard. He said, look at how clean the back windshield is. You know, there's no streak marks, there's no dirt on it. It's spick and span clean. And by this picture, I will concede that. I will say, yes, you're absolutely right. That's a clean windshield. And then I'm assuming that he refers to this this picture of now that it's in a different lighting situation, and you can see right where the Rav emblem is on the rear cargo door, right where the emblem is at, you can see the flash is focused right in that area. And when this picture is snapped, now you can see the water streaks from where the wiper doesn't go all the way down and clean that area off. Now, to me, this is 100% a lighting issue. I mean, the Rav that was on Stephen Avery's property. Now, regardless if you think there's one or two, Stephen Avery's innocent, I'm not talking about that. I'm not discussing that. I'm saying that the Rav on the property that they found, this is the one that's in the state crime lab. It's a different lighting situation. In the daylight, and when the picture snapped from whatever angle, you can't see those streaks and those water spots on the windshield. I don't think it's dust or dirt. I think it's water spots. But under different lighting circumstances and the flash pointed right at that area, then you could see where the wiper doesn't hit. Okay. Now, other interesting things that I thought of, and I'm not sure if this ever been thought of before. I'm sure it has. But if you go to this picture, I've zoomed in. Now, apparently, Wisconsin must not require inspection stickers. I know in Louisiana, you were required. It's a money grab, in all honesty, but you're required to have inspection stickers every year, and they're right in the front windshield. I don't see one here, so I'm just only assuming that they don't require it. And I don't see an inspection sticker, which would further help prove that it was hers. And I don't see another thing. I don't see it would be hard to see from this photograph, but I've always been interested in her oil changes, for instance. Pretty certain that Teresa Hallbot didn't change her own oil. Now, if a family member, her dad, stepdad, or one of her brothers, or her roommate, or boyfriend, or whatever, if one of those guys changed it for her every now and then there wouldn't be a oil change reminder sticker in the top left corner of the windshield. But I think it would be interesting to find out that what if she did have a routine of bringing her car to get the scheduled maintenance done by, one of those quick oil change shops or whatever, because if she brought it anywhere to any business, they would put an oil change sticker in the windshield. Now, I don't know if there's one or not, because like I said, it's hard to tell from this photograph, but I just thought that was another interesting thing to think about. And while we're on that, the mileage on the vehicle. I mean, there's so many ways that you could verify that this was actually her vehicle. And the fact that a lot of this hasn't been brought up that I know of or disputed. I mean, the mileage on her vehicle from the last oil change, I mean, sometimes people don't do it religiously, but sometimes they log that in their manual. There's spots for that to where you can log your oil changes, or if you replace parts after so many miles, or if you brought it in for service, they would record it, things like that. There's a lot of different angles to where you can verify mileage and VIN numbers and that type of thing. Now, there's been an insurance card posted, and I failed to find it, but I did see it a month or two ago. There was an insurance card posted, I think 2 years prior to 2005, of Teresa Halbach's insurance on this vehicle, and the VIN number matched. Now, some people say the VIN number looks like it was messed with. There's not really good pictures taken of it, but it's also been brought up, and I think it's important to note that there's a bunch of different other places that you could verify the VIN number. On the frame and the door jamb, a lot of times on some engine parts, it's stamped. There's a lot of different other places you can verify the VIN number. But another thing I thought about was every time that I've ever went and purchased a vehicle and I brought it to get insurance put on it, they have always come out. Now, I don't know. I'm pretty sure every single insurance company doesn't do this, and I'm pretty sure that every state might not require this. I thought it was an interesting thing to think about. Every time that I have put insurance on a vehicle, they come out after you go up there and you do all your paperwork. They walk outside with you and they take 360 pictures of the vehicle. That goes back 15, 16 years ago. So, I mean, that's, that was a practice going on in 2005 for sure. So I'm not sure if her insurance company did that. I'm not sure if all insurance companies are required to do that, what have you. But I know a good portion of them do. When you put insurance on a vehicle, they take pictures of it. They want to documented proof of what condition the vehicle was in when they are insuring the vehicle. Okay, those pictures would be very useful to put this entire discussion to rest. Now, who does she have insurance through? I don't recall. Would they even still have the pictures? I highly doubt it. But if somebody, some way, could get a hold of those pictures, that would be, huge to settle this argument, because that, to me, that would put this entire argument to rest. So, moving on to a couple other things that I found that kind of support, in a way, I guess you could say, the theory that is her Rav. All right, so this picture, on the right-hand side, we've all seen it where her blood is at, up against the little plastic piece next to the carpet. So, I mean, they tested the blood. Now, I'm not saying that they can't lie or manipulate results. That's not what I'm saying. I know that definitely think that's possible. But they're claiming, that this is that is Teresa Halbach's blood in the vehicle. And I think sometimes we just go so far, and this is not to say that one theory is right or wrong, but I think we go so far as like, well, this is planning, this is planning, this is planning. It gets to where it's like, man, we're starting to make it so out there. The work that would be required in doing some of these theories, it starts making it like just kind of unbelievable. A lot of times the simplest answer, works better. And I think a lot of times in my mind, I think that this is her RAV4, because it'll be a lot simpler to frame Stephen Avery with her Rav than it would be to find another Rav and put her blood in the Rav. Find his blood, put his blood in the Rav, the whole works. But there are great questions that arise from these arguments. Now, her blood is also on the rear cargo door. And there's also blood on the outside of the rear cargo door that still hasn't been identified. And there's 8 different sets of fingerprints that hasn't been identified. There's a bunch of different things that, information hasn't been released, which all plays to the theory of Stephen Avery being framed, and there might be more than one Rav. I completely understand that. Now, on the inside of the vehicle, I noticed this, and I do not know if it's been noticed or not. I was looking at the interior of the Rav, and this is right beside the blinker switch. And if you zoom in, I was just messing around, kind of looking for stuff. If you zoom in right above the switch on the cover, you can see like a red substance. It's not it's clearly something red right there. Now, I don't recall anybody saying that there was blood up on the steering column by the blinker switch. I don't know if that is blood, but it definitely looks like blood. And I'm just curious if anybody has ever noticed it or brought it up, if it has been swabbed, whose blood is it? Is it blood? Things of that nature, but it clearly looks red to me right above that switch on that housing. And it looks like blood to me. Now, in this picture, there's a few different things, and this is where I got it from. I zoomed in on this picture and then cropped it. But if you zoom in, if you go to the picture yourself and you zoom in right above that blinker switch or windshield wiper switch, whatever it is, you can see the red spot that I'm talking about. Now, this blood stain, y'all already know, I believe that's planted. But if you look in this little cubby hole right past the gear shift that doesn't have any of Stephen Avery's blood on it or DNA, there's some stuff in there. And one of the items in there, now below this is a Pepsi can that they said Teresa Halbach's DNA was on. There's also a water bottle in there and CD case, and also looks like a hairbrush or something else. I'm not sure. But right above the gear shift into this little cubby hole, there's a pen and a lighter and a couple of other little items that I'm not quite sure what they are. But the pen caught my interest in terms of this discussion, because if that's her pen and that's her Rav, then I think that it would be a very high chance of her DNA being on that pen. Was it swabbed? I don't recall it ever being talked about as an exhibit or an item of evidence. But I guarantee you, if that's her Rav and that's her pen, then her DNA is on that pen. Probably touch DNA and saliva DNA. When you're writing stuff, a lot of times you put the end of the pen in your mouth. She probably would have wrote with it a bunch of times. Her DNA should be all over that pen, all over that lighter too, I would imagine, even though I don't think she was a smoker. Her DNA should be on a lot of places inside that vehicle. One thing that I thought was interesting is I don't recall of any. Now, this, I've heard people talk about this before. I probably just was distracted with something else, but I don't recall any hair of hers being found inside the Rav. If there was, somebody can correct me. I'm not sure. But I would find that highly odd if there was not any of her hair found in the vehicle, because anybody that has a wife and daughter know that they shed hair all over the place, especially in the shower. But in the vehicle, if you drive a vehicle for a certain amount of time, you're going to find hair in that vehicle. I mean, even men with short hair. I guarantee you, if you look at my truck, forensically, CSI, what they go in there looking for evidence. I'm not talking about just generally glancing through there, but I guarantee you can find my hair in my truck. I don't know if they found her hair in this Rav, but I think that would be an interesting piece of evidence that would point towards one theory or another, because let's just hypothetically speak and say that there's not one single strand of her hair in this vehicle. I would find that extremely unlikely. Okay? Like extremely unlikely. I know that sounds simple, but I'm telling you, that's a huge piece of evidence. So I'm just curious to know. I don't know one way or the other, because like I said, it's impossible to write down every single thing that you've ever heard about the Rav. Like, it would take you probably a year just to collect every piece of information that's ever been put out there on this particular vehicle. But I want to jump back because I rushed through one part of this, and I want to jump back to something real quick. Okay. Let's go back to the color for a minute. I've been told that if I call Toyota, they will clear this whole issue up with me. That the whole color issue. Okay. So I called Toyota. I called local dealerships, and I called the corporate office. I think it was in Houston, Texas. Don't quote me on that, but I forgot where it's at. But there's a bunch of corporate offices around the world, obviously. But the one I called was in the United States. And I waited on the phone forever to get somebody. And then I finally got the person that I needed to talk to. And I asked him, I said, if I give you a VIN number, I know that you could tell me the base color of the vehicle from that VIN number. But what I need to know is, from the VIN number, can you tell me the color of the mirrors, the color of the door handles, the color of the whole outside trim package? And he said, no, you can only tell the base color from the VIN number. You can't tell the trim code from the VIN number. The local dealership told me the same thing. Okay. What you're seeing on her Rav is unpainted trim, is what it's called. It's not painted this color. This is what I was told is this is an unpainted finish on this, on the trim. Now the mirrors, with the exception for the mirrors are painted black, but the door handles and that gray color on the bottom, that trim color, is just unpainted. That's what it is. It's not painted gray, it's unpainted. But I also asked him, can you tell me can you tell me how many 1999 Toyota RAV4s that were have a base color of Mystic Teal Mica, and the trim code would be unpainted gray color. And he said that they don't have that data, that data is kept within the manufacturing plants or whatever. And they have a system to where they randomize they throw different packages together. Now, one thing that through research that I found is that, and this makes perfect sense, is if you have a trim code like this, which is an unpainted trim, fender guards and all of the stuff, trimmings around the bottom of the vehicle, typically that's your lower, maybe not the lowest, but that's one of your lower packages of this vehicle. Now, if you had like the luxury edition of this vehicle, let's say that you had a 1999 deep jewel green, and it was like one of the most luxurious editions you could get with leather seats and all of this stuff, then typically that's going to be your one tone. All of the trim would be painted, stuff like this. This is one of your basic models, okay? So that's a interesting correlation between, her Rav has cloth seats, and it does have power windows, stuff like that, but it's not your most luxury edition that you can have. Therefore, it has the gray trim color. Now, when talking to a couple of people about this, what I brought up was, I thought it was interesting to note that if you look on the internet, and you could do it right now for yourself, if you look on the internet of, let's say you type in 1999 deep jewel green Toyota RAV4, you can find tons of pictures of deep jewel green in one tone, where the entire vehicle is the same color. all of the trim, the mirrors, the door handles, everything. You can find the tan color. You can find the luxury edition of the tan color, where everything on the Toyota RAV4 is tan. The entire body, the mirrors, the door handles, every single thing on there is tan. But what I thought was interesting, I could not find. Now, if you find one, please share it, because I would love to see it. And I'm not saying that it's not out there or it doesn't exist, but I haven't found it. I have not found a one-tone Mystic Teal Mica RAV4 anywhere on the internet. And trust me when I tell you, because look, if somebody's saying that there's two RAV4s, that's something I want to know. I would love to be able to prove that, right? So I'm through doing various picture searches and researches and all these different things. I've looked through probably 1,000 photographs on Google from car lots, etc. I have not found a Mystic Teal Mica one tone where every single thing on the vehicle is painted Mystic Teal Mica. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I'm saying it has to be rare. That's why I asked the numbers from the corporate office of Toyota, because I would really love to get my hands on those production numbers, because I have not found one. Now, it's interesting to note, now you can argue one way or the other if the VIN number is real, fake, or whatever. I happen to believe that it's real. I think that's her VIN number, and I think this is her vehicle. But on the VIN number, like if you run the VIN number for the paint job, the VIN number will tell you that this is Mystic Teal Mica. But like I previously stated, it will not tell you the trim code on this vehicle. Now, they have different trim codes listed. When you go on the Toyota website, you can look at different trim codes. But just strictly calling in the VIN number, or you run the VIN number, you can do it yourself online. You don't even have to call Toyota. You can go to the Toyota website and you run the VIN number. It's on this vehicle. It will tell you that the vehicle is Mystic Teal Mica. So why I think that is important is that if that's her VIN number and the VIN number says the vehicle is Mystic Teal Mica, to me, the vehicle is Mystic Teal Mica. And that's another reason why I thought it was important that if we have any statements from anybody saying that it was one tone or two tone, but I don't know. Okay. And that's why I say I lean towards one, but people have brought up very interesting facts about, the RAV. There's tons of interesting information. People say that the VIN number has been fooled with, or that we have limited photographs of the VIN numbers. But to me, that picture that I just showed you is probably one of your best pieces of evidence, because if you look at the top of it, it's crinkled up. So they took a snapshot of this photograph, and this is an original photograph. It has to be, in my opinion, this has to be an actual picture of her standing in front of her RAV4. Okay. Now, on the back, right by the handle of the rear cargo door, another thing people's talked about is the blood stain that was there. And then when it gets to the state crime lab, that it's not in this picture, it doesn't depict it. It's another photograph. But I think that's interesting. There's other prints and blood on this vehicle that we don't have identification for. I think a lot of that plays into the fact that they're just framing Stephen Avery. I don't think it plays into the fact that it's a completely different vehicle. Now, Kathleen's brought up about this parking light, the damaged parking light. And another reason why I think it's important, and the reason why I believe she wants it, is because if indeed, because first of all, Ryan lied about her making a claim on her insurance. But if indeed this Rav, the front of this Rav was damaged in the time frame, let's say it was damaged by the suspect, the fact that the parking light sitting in the rear cargo area means that he got out and picked it up and put it in there, which means there's a good chance that his DNA is on that parking light. It was never tested. We don't know if there's blood or DNA on it. And there's a memory card laying back here. It looks like a flashlight laying up under that seat. Looks like some crinkled up paper. And then there's also a pencil laying back there. I don't know if any of that was swabbed or tested. So that's really where I'm at on this entire thing. I believe there's an outline chance that there could be two, but I firmly believe that there's one. I believe in a lot of these pictures, it's a lighting issue. To me, the back of this Rav, which is cropped from that original photo, to me, this picture that Rav looks green. In other words, I could see where you make the argument that you've seen this vehicle for years and you just assumed that color was green. But it's interesting to note that, I mean, this is blue. This is blue to me. This is more green looking. And then this, I can see the blue, the mystic teal, the bluer color on it. So that's just where I stand on it. And, people get pissed off when they start talking about this topic. I mean, I've had interesting conversations about the RAV4. I mean, a few people in particular get really pissed off because they just feel like, for various reasons, that this is 100% a different vehicle. And like I said, for instance, the Reflector situation. Okay. The Reflector, I mean, to me, that would be one of your best pieces of evidence for that argument to say that there's two Ravs. Is in this picture, that rear reflector looks red as blood. And in this picture, it looks orange. Okay, that's now you can make the argument, well, different light. You can run an experiment. Maybe one of you has a 1999 Toyota Rav or something. Maybe you could take a picture of it in the daylight. Maybe you can take one where it's completely dark and put the flash right on it to see if it's orange. I mean, that'd be an interesting experiment to do. I might even try to look into doing that because that would be interesting. But that's one that would be hard, That's one that would go in the column of two Ravs. So, I mean, that's just my thoughts on it. Richard joined us. He says, why is there a K95 two-color trim code as opposed to a 760 single-color trim code? I've heard you talk about that many times. Where's the K95 coming from? That's my question, because you can't link the VIN number to a K95 trim code. I understand that K95 might be linked as two-color trim, or 760 might be linked to single color trim. But how do you get that code from the VIN number? Because Toyota is telling me that it can't be done. 760 Mystic Teal Mica is a single trim code. One color. What does K95 mean if not the trim code painted a different color? Well, hey, what's up, MFMC? Mr. Richard, I understand what you're saying. And look, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm trying to present evidence for both sides, for both arguments. But I've heard you speak about the trim codes, and look, there's people that I really respect in this community that has said that there's a lot of evidence suggesting that that's not the vehicle. So I'm not, trust me, the last thing I want to do is to go against all of these people that has been preaching this for way longer than I have. So I'm not sitting up here saying one way or the other. I'm not coming in here stepping on anybody's toes, but I'm just pointing out what I think and various, information and various things that I picked up on it. So yeah, the K95 2-color trim code, you got to tell me how you're linking that to Teresa Hallbach's vehicle. Because you could say that this trim code matches this and this trim code matches this. You're going to have to show me, because when I talk to Toyota, you cannot tell the trim code from the VIN number. So how else would you link it? If you're saying that the entire Rav was one-tone green, or if you're saying that it was one-tone Mystic Teal Mica, if you are saying that it's one-tone Mystic Teal Mica, I want you to find me a picture of a one-tone Mystic Teal Mica, because I have not found one. And one-tones typically are your luxury editions that have leather seats, etc. So, like I said, I'm not saying one way or the other. I just wanted to present this information as I see it. And I appreciate every one of you tuning in. And like I said, tomorrow night, Thomas Myrtle, and I'm going to try to get one or two other people on as well. We're going to be talking about a bunch of different things. One of the issues, and it might sound boring, but trust me, it's not, because Thomas has some information. I did a bunch of research myself on this coronavirus, and there's not speculation. These are facts that I have thought was interesting about this virus. Various pieces of evidence about this virus, Chinese nationals getting arrested in our country, those types of things. Tomorrow at 8:30, if the time changes, I'll let you know. Please tune in and watch that video, because it's going to be really good. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. Like, and feel free to share this video. And that's going to be it. Thank you.